Today, we're taking a journey through 100 years of British engineering, documenting the evolution of British tanks from the very first tanks ever to the modern day ones. So jump into the video and start with the World War I and origins. Little Willie, 1915. Little Willie was Britain's first tank prototype. Built to break trench warfare, it used tracks adapted from agricultural tractors. It proved the concept of armored, tracked vehicles, but performed poorly off-road. Despite its flaws, Little Willie laid the foundation for every tank that followed. Mother Big Willie, Mark I prototype. Mother was the first true tank design to work effectively. It introduced a rhomboid shape, allowing it to cross trenches and barbed wire. This design directly led to the Mark I and defined early tank warfare during World War I. Mark I, 1916. The world's first combat tank. Armed with cannons or machine guns, it debuted at the Battle of the Somme. Slow, unreliable, and cramped, but terrifying to infantry. The Mark I proved tanks could change warfare forever. Mark II. An improved Mark I, mainly used for training. Some were rushed into combat due to shortages. Armor and weapons were similar, but reliability issues remained. It showed how fast tank development was evolving under wartime pressure. Mark III, primarily a training tank, not intended for combat. It introduced minor mechanical improvements and better crew layouts. Though rarely fought, it helped refine future battlefield designs. Mark V, 1918, the most successful British WWII tank. It introduced a proper transmission, allowing one driver instead of four. More reliable and easier to control, the Mark V represented the peak of World War I tank design. Mark V Star Technical Leap. An extended Mark V designed to carry infantry across trenches. It foreshadowed armored personnel carriers. Though awkward, it introduced combined arms thinking decades ahead of its time. Mark VII, a rare experimental design with advanced hydraulic transmission. It was heavy and complex, limiting production. The Mark VII showed Britain pushing technology but struggling with wartime practicality. Mark VIII Liberty, a joint British-American tank. Larger, better armored, and powered by a Liberty engine. It arrived too late for World War I, but symbolized international cooperation and influenced post-war heavy tank concepts. Mark IX, the first armored troop carrier, designed to transport soldiers safely through fire. It was uncomfortable and hot, but revolutionary. The Mark IX introduced the concept of mechanized infantry transport. Medium Mark A Whippet, fast compared to heavy tanks, designed for breakthroughs and exploitation. Armed with machine guns, it excelled in mobility. The Whippet was an early ancestor of cruiser and cavalry tanks. Medium Mark B, an experimental follow-up to the Whippet. Heavier and slower, it failed to improve performance. Never used in combat, but helped test post-war tank theories. Medium Mark C Hornet, the final WWI-era British medium tank. Faster and more refined, but war ended before deployment. It marked the transition from trench tanks to maneuver warfare machines. Next coming up, interwar period tanks. Medium Mark D, designed for speed and long-distance movement. Its unusual suspension promised mobility but proved unreliable. Never adopted, the Mark D showed Britain experimenting with maneuver warfare after WWI. Carden Lloyd Mark VI, a tiny tankette meant for mass production. Lightly armored and machine gun armed, it influenced tank designs worldwide. Though obsolete quickly, it inspired dozens of foreign vehicles. Vickers Medium Mark I, Britain's first true post-WWI tank. Balanced mobility, firepower, and armor. It helped develop professional armored doctrine during peacetime and trained the crews who would fight WWII. Vickers Medium Mark II, an improved Mark I with better armor and reliability. Served throughout the 1920s and early 1930s. Though outdated by WWII, it shaped modern British tank tactics. A1E1 Independent, a massive multi-turret tank with 5 turrets, intended to dominate battlefields psychologically and physically. Impractical and expensive, but it influenced Soviet and German heavy tank designs. Vickers Medium Mark C, a refined medium tank concept with improved layout. Never mass-produced, but used to test better ergonomics and crew efficiency. Vickers Medium Mark D, focused on speed and cross-country ability. Mechanical complexity limited adoption. It represented Britain's struggle between innovation and reliability. Vickers Medium Mark III, a further modernization attempt, featured better suspension and armor ideas. Cancelled due to budget cuts, but its lessons carried into later cruiser tanks. A7 Medium, a heavily armored infantry support concept. Too slow and expensive for practical use. Cancelled early but highlighted the infantry tank philosophy. Light Tank Mark I, a small reconnaissance tank, lightly armed and armored. Used mainly for training, it marked the beginning of Britain's light tank lineage. Light Tank Mark II, improved engine and suspension, still lightly armored but more reliable, served as a stepping stone toward modern scout tanks. Light Tank Mark III, introduced better mobility and crew comfort, used for reconnaissance roles, helped refine light tank doctrine before WWII. Light Tank Mark V, more reliable and faster, still vulnerable to enemy fire, widely used in the late 1930s but obsolete once war began. Light Tank Mark V three-man crew, improved command and control with a dedicated commander. This crew layout became standard worldwide and improved battlefield awareness. Light Tank Mark VI, the most common British tank at the start of WWII. Excellent speed but thin armor, effective for scouting, not combat. Cruiser Mark I A9, Britain's first cruiser tank, designed for speed and exploitation. Thin armor made it vulnerable, but it defined cruiser tank doctrine. Cruiser Mark II A10, heavier armor than the A9 but slower. Tried to balance protection and speed. Mixed results in early war combat. Infantry Tank Mark I Matilda I, heavily armored but armed only with machine guns, slow and underpowered. Effective against infantry but useless against enemy tanks. Cruiser Mark III A13, fast and agile with Chrissy suspension. Thin armor but excellent mobility. A true cavalry tank for breakthroughs. Cruiser Mark V Covenanter, advanced cooling and low-profile design. Serious reliability issues, limited combat use. Still, it helped bridge the gap to better cruisers.
Next coming up, World War II tanks. Infantry Tank Mark II, or Matilda II, heavily armored and nearly invulnerable early in the war, dominated Italian forces in North Africa. Slow and undergunned later, but legendary for survivability. A14 Heavy Cruiser, an experimental cruiser with thicker armor, too heavy and complex, cancelled early but influenced later cruiser developments. A16 Infantry Tank, designed as a heavily armored infantry tank, weight and cost killed the project. Its concepts lived on in later Churchill designs. Mark III Valentine, reliable, compact, and heavily armored for its size, widely used by Britain and allies. Weak gun but excellent mechanical reliability. Cruiser Mark V Covenanter, low silhouette and high speed. Chronic overheating issues limited battlefield use, mostly served as a training tank. TOG 1, designed for First World War style trench warfare, massive, slow, and outdated, obsolete before completion, but an engineering curiosity. TOG 2, improved TOG with better armor and gun, still far too slow for modern war, now famous as a museum giant. Cruiser Mark VI Crusader, fast and agile in North Africa. Mechanical reliability issues plagued it, key early war British cruiser tank. Infantry Tank Mark V Churchill, thick armor and excellent climbing ability. Initially unreliable but improved greatly, served in every major theater. Light Tank Mark VII Tetrarch, light, fast, and air transportable, limited combat use due to thin armor, influenced airborne armor concepts. Light Tank Mark VIII Harry Hopkins, an improved Tetrarch, better armor but heavier and slower, arrived too late to matter. Cruiser Mark VII Cavalier, an interim cruiser tank, underpowered and quickly replaced, rarely saw combat. Cruiser Mark VIII Centaur, a Cromwell variant with a weaker engine, mostly used for training and support roles. Cruiser Mark VIII Cromwell, fast, reliable, and well-balanced, one of Britain's best World War II tanks, excelled in the Normandy campaign. A33 Excelsior, a heavily armored assault tank prototype, inspired by early Tiger encounters, cancelled in favor of improving the Churchill. Cruiser Challenger, mounted a powerful 17-pounder gun, tall silhouette made it vulnerable, designed to counter German heavy tanks. Achilles, a British modified American tank destroyer, armed with a 17-pounder, highly effective against German armor, highly feared by German crews. Sherman DD, or duplex drive,
Amphibious Sherman used on D-Day, enabled armored landings under fire. Technically risky, but strategically vital. Churchill Crocodile, flamethrower variant of the Churchill, devastating against bunkers and fortifications, psychological weapon as much as physical. Churchill AVRE, engineering assault tank, carried massive demolition weapons, essential for breaching defenses in Normandy. A38 Valiant, heavily armored but mechanically flawed, poor mobility and ergonomics, cancelled early. A39 Tortoise, a gigantic tank destroyer, extremely heavy armor and massive gun, too slow for real combat deployment. Cruiser Comet, a refined Cromwell with a powerful gun, arrived late but proved excellent, direct predecessor to post-war tanks. A43 Black Prince, a heavily armored Churchill successor, armed with a 17-pounder, cancelled as war ended and designs shifted.
Next coming up, the Cold War era tanks. Centurion, one of the greatest tanks ever built. Balanced armor, firepower, and mobility. Served worldwide for decades, it defined the modern main battle tank. FV201 Universal Tank, intended to replace all tank types. Development issues led to cancellation. Its chassis evolved into later heavy tanks. FV301, a light tank prototype focused on mobility. Never entered production, influenced British reconnaissance vehicle concepts. FV4101 Charioteer, a lightly armored tank with a powerful 20-pounder gun, designed to counter Soviet armor, fast but vulnerable. FV4004 Conway, a massive gun mounted on a Centurion chassis, excellent firepower but impractical size, cancelled as technology advanced. FV4005 mounted an enormous 183mm gun, designed to destroy heavy Soviet tanks, tremendous recoil and slow reload limited by ability. FV214 Conqueror, Britain's Cold War heavy tank, powerful gun and thick armor, complex and expensive, replaced once main battle tanks matured. FV4202, a Centurion-based prototype, improved armor and gun concepts, directly influenced the Chieftain. FV4211, a universal tank-based prototype, improved armor and gun concepts, directly influenced the Chieftain. Vickers MBT Mark I Vijayanta, export tank for India, reliable and simple, served for decades, showed Britain's strength in export armor. FV4201 Chieftain, revolutionary low-profile and powerful gun, excellent armor but engine issues plagued it, a true Cold War warrior. FV4211, upgraded Chieftain prototype, improved protection and systems, developmental step toward modern MBTs. FV1011 Scorpion, light reconnaissance tank with a large gun, fast and air deployable, ideal for scouting, not direct combat. FV107 Scimitar, armed with a rapid-fire cannon, excellent for reconnaissance and fire support, served widely with British forces. Vickers MBT Mark III Vijayanta, advanced export tank, improved fire control and armor, influenced later British and foreign designs. Vickers MBT Mark IV Valiant, a testbed for advanced armor, technologically ambitious but cancelled, lessons fed into Challenger development. MBT-80, Britain's next-generation tank concept, advanced electronics and armor, cancelled due to cost and politics. Sher 1 Khalid, developed for Iran, program cancelled after revolution, design evolved into Challenger 1. Challenger 1, Britain's first true modern MBT, excellent armor protection, outgunned later but extremely survivable. Next coming up, the modern era tanks. Vickers MBT Mark VII, a hybrid export design using Western and Leopard 2 components, advanced fire control and mobility, demonstrated global collaboration and modern tank design. Sabre, a proposed modernization concept, focused on improved protection and electronics, never fully adopted but reflected post-Cold War upgrade thinking. Stormer 30, a lightweight tracked combat vehicle, armed with a 30mm cannon, designed for mobility, reconnaissance, and rapid deployment rather than tank combat. Challenger 2, one of the most heavily protected tanks ever built, exceptional survivability and accuracy, renowned for reliability in Iraq and Afghanistan. Challenger 2 Black Knight, technology demonstrator upgrade, added active protection, modern sensors, and digital systems,
proved Challenger 2 could remain viable in modern warfare. Challenger 2 Street Fighter, urban warfare upgrade, enhanced protection against RPGs and IEDs, tailored for close-quarters combat environments. Challenger 3, Britain's next-generation main battle tank, new turret, smoothbore gun, and NATO standard ammunition, designed for 21st century warfare. Leopard 2 Vickers Mark 7 influence, mentioned due to shared technology, one of the world's most successful modern MBTs, set global standard for firepower and protection.